Hey guys, it's your girl Carrie. Welcome back to my channel. I'm trying out some liquids today from Indigo Rue. I've got dip liquids and gel liquids, and as you can see, a ginormous jar of clear dip powder. So we're going to put these to the test today, and I'm going to give you my first impressions and some ideas as to who I think these would be good for while we try out two of their newest dips from their newest collection. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then stick around. We're getting into it. First things first, Indigo Rue did send these items to me, and I'm embarrassed to say they sent these items to me a while ago, as in several months ago. And, you know, they didn't ask me to create a video for them, like there was no kind of arrangement or anything. But anytime a brand sends me this much free product, I'm definitely going to create a video testing them out and giving you my thoughts. So that's just kind of ambassador influencer life. Sometimes things get pushed back for a while because you have obligations, you know, things that you have to get done or videos that are really in demand by your followers. So, you know, unfortunately this one just fell by the wayside a little bit, but I feel like it's always better than never to do this kind of stuff because I know you guys are probably like me and you're always like a Goldilocks with your dip and gel liquids looking for something that's just right. So I'm going to let you know my opinions on these products and we'll see who these are going to be good for. All right, I'm going to give you a lot more details as we go along, but I did want to show you here. This is their Quartz clear dip powder. This is a huge jar, huge. It's a 4-ounce jar, which I believe from what I see on their site, it retails for $44, which when you break it down price per ounce or quarter ounce, it's actually a pretty good deal. So I'm really hopeful that this clear dip powder is going to be great because with a jar this size, I'm definitely hopeful that I can get a lot of good use out of it. So I've got a couple bags here. So I just popped open the first one and what I see here are some very small instruction cards for dip powder and builder gel application, which is pretty cool. The only thing I'll say about these cards is they're handy like to remind you the order of the steps, but there's no like times on here. So I had to kind of refer to the packaging and then also just kind of what I've seen on their Facebook group and the website to get a feel for timing. But it is nice if you're somebody who's really new to that and you need kind of reminders as to the order that things need to go. So what I have here is their 5 dip liquid set, which is 40 bucks, which considering you're getting 5 different liquids for that price, I feel like that's a little less expensive than a lot of other small businesses. So you can buy them individually or you can buy them in these sets. So this set includes the dip base, the activator, the top coat, and then there's also a brush saver, which is good if you're somebody who has issues with your liquids contaminating. And then it also includes a primer, which I didn't pick up and show you because I thought it was going to be a builder gel primer, but it's actually a dip powder primer. So pretty comprehensive little set here. So these are the gel liquids they sent me. So what I have here is a gel base and a gel top coat. And then I also have 2 different colors of builder gel. So I have their clear and then a sheer pink. So I won't be testing the builder gels out today, so I'll have to get back to you on those, but I will be finishing the mani with the gel base and gel top since you guys know I love finishing with gels. But let me just show you real quick kind of the consistency of this. So this is a very, very sheer pink. Think of this like a pink glass color. I mean, it's very lightly tinted, which could be really pretty if you're somebody who just wants like a sheer, very sheer wash of pink color. I think that would be really nice. This formula definitely looks a little bit on the thinner side, which I definitely think will make it, you know, very user friendly if you're somebody who, you know, struggles with a smooth builder gel application. I don't know how good that would be to build extensions, but I can't really tell that for sure just by looking at it. But as far as the formula itself, it looks pretty thin and pretty easy to use. So we'll have to see when I get a chance to try those out. So for the mani today, I'm going to be using the dip base and the dip activator, and then I'll be finishing with the gel base and the gel top. But I am going to show you the swatches I did of the 4 newest dip powders I grabbed from them with the dip coat on top, just so you can get a sense of what that looks like if you're interested in a dip top coat. Before we get going, I did end up putting back on my Vivid Glam Co medium coffin tips. I love square, but I just feel like it doesn't do so well with dip powder, at least on me. Like I just haven't gotten the shaping down with dip powder and square tips. So I put back on my Vivid Glam Co coffins, and as soon as I did, I was like, God, I remember already how much I love these. So I think these are just going to end up being my ideal tips, and I use their liquids. I've been using the liquids to apply my tips, and I absolutely love the liquids as well. So gosh, I just love the shape of these, and the length of these are just like perfect for me. So I ended up grabbing 4 dips from their newest collection, which This is pretty good for me, guys. I mean, I didn't buy the whole collection. I only bought 4 dips, but I may have some regrets about that, which I'll tell you about later. But the ones I got were a Shadow and Mystic and Abyss and Aurora. So I'll put a photo up of the newest collection if you hadn't seen it. But basically, it's kind of like a shimmer with a matching like chunky glitter, but the chunky glitter is a little bit different. So I'll show one here to you here in a second. But it's shimmers that pair really nicely with these newest form of glitters. So here's a look at these glitters, and the only way I can describe them is they're kind of fluffy, but they have kind of those iridescent or like really sheer white pieces in them. And then depending on which glitter, some of them have different elements in it. So this one's Aurora, which I instantly fell in love with. And then this one is Mystic. So you can see there's a lot more like larger chunky pieces in Mystic, but they're all kind of this similar like fluffy chunky glitter format. So here are the swatches from left to right. So we have Shadow and then Aurora and then Abyss and then Mystic. So these I did end up using the dip liquids because I wanted to test them out before I put them on my hands, and I used the dip top coat to finish these off. And I gotta say, this is a great dip top coat. It's very shiny, it's very sturdy, it went on very smoothly and self-leveled quickly. So if you're somebody who prefers a dip top coat over a gel top coat just with first impressions, I would absolutely recommend that. So taking a look at the bottle before you get started on the mani, this is the base coat that I have here. So you can see we have all the same stoppers on all these liquids, which does help to keep too much liquid from coming out or spilling or anything like that. And then we got a pretty standard size brush here. So this base liquid right here, it looks pretty thin, and the odor on all these is pretty low, though I would say they're not odorless. There's definitely a detectable odor, but it's not super offensive. And it's one of those that kind of has like the mothball-y smell. The base to me like gives banana mothballs. I don't know, guys. And then the activator just gives me regular mothballs. Oh, banana mothballs. I'm sure you guys must wonder about me sometimes. They did also send me their precision tool. So this is a dual-ended tool. So I'm going to go ahead and use this for the mani today. So we got some cute little like clear stones here in the middle. And then we have the 2 sides you typically see on a dual-ended tool. So on one end, we have the wax tool, which is good for picking up, you know, charms or gems or rhinestones or even some chunky glitters. And then on this other side, we have the cuticle tool. So we'll give that a go today as well. So I'm just going to let you watch me dip out the shimmer. This one is Abyss. I'm using Abyss and Mystic, by the way. So I'm just going to get started here with Abyss. And I'm going to jump off here for a little bit and just let you watch. And then I will be back to give my first impressions on the liquids while we dip into that beautiful glitter called Mystic.
It doesn't even make sense why I think about you. It was only one night, only that time, and it's not my style to be caught up in the middle like this. 'Cause now I dream about you. I was probably too drunk, it's blurry, but I've got the image of you running circles in my mind right now. And it could fade away, but it probably won't, and I should let it be. But I'm gonna dive into you, and maybe I'll drown. What can I do? And it will be alright to let me down. Rather we try than let these feelings slide. So I'm gonna dive into you.
It doesn't even make sense why we try to fight it. Every time that we touch, the room caught on fire. We could blame it on the wine, but we know that we will both be lying. I wish I didn't want you. I was doing just fine, the way that it was. Then you hand me these emotions, didn't want them, but I guess that I sucked with them. They could go away, but I know they won't, and I should let it be. But I'm gonna dive into you, and maybe I drown, but what can I do? And it will be alright to let me down. I'd rather we try than let these feelings slide. So I'm
It doesn't even make sense why I think about you. It was only one night, only that time, and it's not my style to be caught up in the middle like this.
But I'm gonna dive into you. And maybe I can, but what can I do?
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and dip into Mystic now, and I gotta tell you, this is one of those chunky glitters that I feel like is easier to work with than some others, and I think it's just due to the nature of the material that's in it. So I'm not gonna say that you don't have to manipulate it at all. You definitely do. It's still a chunky glitter, but I didn't find it difficult to get a nice flat smooth nail. It just took a little bit of manipulation on my part as usual, but definitely not difficult to work with. All right, so let me go ahead and give you my first impressions on these liquids. I would definitely call this base a moderate to slow drying base. So, you know, that's kind of hard to pinpoint because I feel like that's really in the eye of the beholder, and there's definitely some other factors that go into speed of dry time, you know, like the body warmth and how much air you have blowing near your surface and all that. But I guess what I would consider slow is if I do my first layer on my nails that I'm going to do, and then I come back to the second layer and I'm still waiting, that to me is slow. So if I can do all that and I come back to do the second layer and it's already dry and ready for me to go with the second layer, then I consider that moderate. So with this one, after I did the first layer and went back in for the second one, it was already dry, so I wasn't still waiting. Now I did notice that this was slower than some other liquids I have used, so I would probably say this is slower than Virgo and Gem, and I would say this is about the same or maybe just a hair slower than Vivid Glam. And that's not to pit companies against each other, just trying to give you a reference point if you've used either of those. So I would say those are my two go-tos right now. So this one I would say is just a little bit slower drying than both of those, but again, I did not have to sit around and wait for things to dry before going in with additional layers. Assuming you guys are not new to my channel, you know I like to fuss and mess around with chunky glitters quite a bit, which is why I prefer a moderate or moderate slow drying liquid. It's just because it lets me have so much time to work with the glitter to get it the way I like it, so that it's not super bumpy or jagged, or, you know, it doesn't look weird as far as the placement goes. So, you know, I had plenty of time to manipulate the glitter, but I wasn't like having to sit around and wait and wait and wait for it to dry. So this is definitely an ideal dry time for me. I would also classify the base as thin, but not to the point to where it's super runny and difficult to control. So I didn't have any issues at all controlling the powder, controlling the liquid. It wasn't running into my cuticles or sidewalls, but I like a nice thin look to my nails. You know, I don't like them to look thick, so obviously I definitely prefer a thinner liquid. So this one definitely meets my criteria for thin. So, you know, you can see from the finished video and then the finished photos that, you know, the nails are not thick at all. They're nice and thin, and this liquid does self-level very quickly. So really happy with the base. I definitely will put this one in the rotation and continue using it. All right, so here's 2 layers of everything. I'm gonna go ahead and dust this off, and then we're gonna try out the clear dip powder, and we'll discuss the clear dip and the activator. All right, we're gonna take a look at this mammoth jar of clear, and it is filled all the way to the brim. And this is one where if you wanted to invest in the cost savings you're gonna get in getting the 4-ounce jar, you're never going to run out of clear powder, probably ever. And you can see the texture of this is very finely milled, and so I'm very grateful that they gifted this to me, because this is really quite a treat, because I really don't see me ever needing any more clear powder again after this. So I'm just going to put down a layer of the base coat like I always do and lay into this clear powder. And I'm not really worried about contaminating it, just because I have found that 90% of the time I'm only encapsulating glitters these days. I just don't see the need to encapsulate solids, with the exception of the very few colors that I kind of know are going to marble if I buff them. But you know, I just find myself most of the time only clear encapsulating glitters. Anyway, a bit of a tangent there, but you can see that immediately it does start kind of clearing up, which again shows that not only do I have a good dip base to powder ratio, but also that this is probably going to be a pretty effective clear for me if it starts kind of clearing up as soon as I lay into it. Now, I do think it's worth noting, because this liquid is a little bit slow drying, and then putting a pretty thick layer on it with the clear, it did take a little bit longer to dry than normal, which is totally fine. You just kind of have to pace yourself and be patient with this process, because remember, if you go in with your scrubby brush and start scrubbing off the excess too soon and it's not really set, you're going to risk kind of pulling up some of that clear and making bubbles in it, which never really looks pretty over your beautiful glitter. So I couldn't tell you exactly how long that was. I didn't really time it, but the easiest way to tell is kind of like touch your finger to like the edge where it's not going to mess anything up. And if it sticks, then it's not ready. And if it doesn't stick and it doesn't feel like maybe just a tiny bit tacky, then you're good to go ahead and brush off. So that's what I'm doing. So I haven't really touched on the activator yet, so let me go ahead and get into that because it is a bit slower drying than some of the activators I've used, which again is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just worth noting because I did go in to do the baggie trick with this glitter after I clear encapsulated. I like to press down with the baggie to make it nice and smooth, and I tried to go in too soon and it stuck. So it took a little bit longer than most of my activators usually do, which again is fine. It's just something to be aware of. So again, I could have avoided that by kind of just touching it on the edge and making sure that it was completely dry before I went in and pressed down. So this is actually the second go around you're seeing here. I actually kind of went in too soon the first time and I had to kind of fix it, but all good. So like I said, this really does not meet my criteria for slow drying liquids, but slower, so moderate to slow. So I think these liquids would be really good for somebody who is either a beginner or like somebody who likes to do art techniques like ombre and glitter placement and things like that, because you'll get a lot more playtime with this. And the only people I would say that may not love these liquids is if you're super impatient and you want like ultra fast drying liquids. I would say these are not it, but I don't think most people want that. I mean, look at me, I've been doing this for a couple years and I still don't want that. So this is definitely going to be an ideal texture for me. And like I said, I will definitely put it in the rotation. All right, so fingers crossed. Everything's looking pretty good. I don't think we're gonna need to do a lot of filing and buffing, mostly just shape cleanup. Maybe a little bit on that middle finger. I noticed the chunky glitter kind of got a little bit lopsided, which was operator error. But I'm gonna go clean these up real quick and then I will be right back to try out those gels. All right, everything cleaned up beautifully, so we are ready to go with top coat. And like I said, I'm going to be finishing with the gel base and gel top because that is my preference in general. It has nothing to do with any specific brand. I just prefer the shine and the durability over a gel top coat. I feel like it is superior to a dip top coat. But if you're somebody who can't use gel or you just prefer a dip top coat, then you could definitely reactivate and go in with the dip top coat. Like I said, this dip top coat is pretty good. So I think if you're looking for a nice shiny one, I think you'll like this one. All right, so I can tell just by looking at these that these gels appear to be pretty thin. They have a mid-length brush, not too long, not too short, so pretty standard, and I kind of like the rectangular bottle. I think it's a nice touch. So we did file and buff, so I'm just wiping down with alcohol to make sure there's no dust left on the nail. And just a reminder that if you're going to use gel top coat to finish, you do not need that second activation. That's only if you're going to use a dip top coat. So starting first with the gel base, I would say these gels, are comparatively pretty low odor. I mean, I haven't yet to find a gel that didn't have any odor at all. Gel just smells, but this is pretty low odor, so this is not anything that was bothersome. And again, I find this formula to be very thin, very easy to control, but thin, which I kind of like both. I like a thin gel and a thick gel for different purposes. If you're somebody who has used eye gel liquids, I would say these are pretty similar, although maybe a hair thicker, but not by much. So these are pretty thin. So if you're somebody who prefers thin gels to finish, then I think you'll really like these. All right, so I cured the gel base for 30 seconds. Now I'm going with the top coat. So I would say that the two gel brands that I use the most often right now are iGel Beauty and West Coast Dips, which are pretty much night and day when it comes to gel formulas. I feel like iGel's is pretty thin and a little bit on the runny side, whereas West Coast is pretty thick, and also the finished nails, like the thickness of the gel is pretty thick. So I use both and I like both because if I have a nail that's a bit on the thinner side and I'm looking for a bit more reinforcement, or maybe it's just, a little bit rough and I need something thick to kind of smooth it out, I'll go for the West Coast. But if I feel like my nails are already pretty thick and I want to minimize the additional thickness with the top coat, I'll go in with iGels. So again, I would say this is pretty comparative to iGels, just maybe a hair thicker. And you can get both the gel base and top in a set for $16, which I feel like is a pretty good value. So, all right, so gel top coat is cured and you can see it's really quite shiny and looks very smooth. So very nice top coat finish here. All right, so I'm just going to finish up with some cuticle oil, and today I'm going to be using Scales of a Mermaid cuticle oil and Spill the Tea, which is one of her newest releases. Now, I know this is sold out right now, but it is mainline, so she should be restocking that pretty soon. But the way I would describe this is if you had a tea bag in a cup and you poured some boiling water over top, this is the smell that would waft up from that teacup. She really captured that scent perfectly. So if you're somebody who likes that smell, you're going to love this one. It's very earthy and very woodsy. It just really smells so much like fall. Alright guys, so I think you have a pretty good idea of how I am feeling about these liquids. I really do enjoy them. I'll definitely continue using the dip liquids. I will put them in the rotation, and definitely the same with the gels. I definitely see myself reusing these gels. I really like the texture. The shine is beautiful. They feel very durable, but I love that they're not super thick. So if you're looking for a nice, easy to use gel that's pretty no mess, no fuss, I think you would really like this one. Now let's talk about my regrets, because I was being good, and you see I was being good, you guys, and now I regret not getting this whole collection, because I cannot even with these dips. They're just insane. Like, even the solid, you got to stay for the photos at the end. The sparkle in it and the shimmer is just, oh, mind-blowing. And the glitter, the dimension in it is insane. It's just, oh my gosh, they are so breathtaking. I'm like, see, I should have just bought the whole collection. You see? Funny thing about this though, when I went to sleep after doing this mani, I went to get into bed, and it was already dark in the room because my husband was asleep, and I caught a glimpse of my nails. I was like, wait, what's happening? I did not remember that these were glow. So these glow on top of that, which just makes them even more fun. So if you did not pick anything up from this collection, I highly recommend these two. And you know, if you don't want any regrets like I had, then you might just want to get the whole thing. All joking aside, if you've been sleeping on Indigo Rue, you might want to wake up. Alright guys, that is going to complete this video, so I hope you did enjoy it and find it helpful. If you did, it would help me out so much if you would give me a thumbs up down below. And while you're there, if you have not subscribed already, I hope you will consider subscribing before you go. We got new content twice a week. That's going to be Tuesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Central. So as always guys, I thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it with me. I appreciate it so much. You guys know I love you to pieces, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
But I'm gonna dive in with you. And maybe I'll drown. What can I do? And it will be alright.
We just got Charlie a new water dish. It's like one of those like automatic like fountain style ones, and he does not like it. He keeps coming to eat his dry food on the side of the bowl where he can face it, because he wants to make sure it's not gonna like jump out and attack him. He keeps giving it a wide berth. See how he walks all the way around it and then faces it head on so he can keep an eye on it. He does not know what it is, but I think he thinks it looks too much like mommy's vacuum cleaner, which he also doesn't like. It's just a water bowl, bub.
You don't want no water?
He said, no, I do not.